first things first, we'll do some housekeeping. Injuries. Saw that Stephen Myler's not involved on Sunday. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, so he got injured in the game, managed to see it through, has a rib injury. So from that point of view, that's really disappointing. Great that he stayed on and obviously did what he did, but he's pretty sore. Gareth Anscombe's still carrying the same from the cheap shot that he got in the Lions game. Still hasn't recovered. He's not far away, but it's just a game too early for him, I think. By the looks of it, he has returned to training, where Steve hasn't. Obviously Cuthbert's not with us. He's actually gone early into Wales because he obviously won't factor from us anymore. Oh, Keelan Giles, yeah, he picked up a knock in that game, and again just hasn't turned it around quick enough really, which is really sad for him and for us because he's been playing exceptionally well. But it gives an opportunity to Luke Morgan, as you've seen from the team sheet. And Luke's been a very consistent performer for us, so hopefully not too much difference there.
So with regards to the 10 jersey then, if Gareth Anscombe's going into Wales camp on Monday, how long will Stephen Myler be off I don't know if you know how long his layoff will be, but then do you only have one 10 then?
Well, Jack Walsh obviously, that you know. We've got Luke Scully and Joe Hawkins played there, but obviously Joe's been seconded as well. Into an ever increasing number into the Welsh camp for us, which is bittersweet, as I'm sure you could imagine. We actually thought it'd be one more, to be fair, but there we go. That's a different conversation. I'm sure someone will ask me about that in a moment. But from that point of view, it's a reflection on how we've played, a reflection on how the individuals have been playing. But we've just got to get on with it. But it's certainly, if you think about what we're going to be left with, and from a preparation point of view and a trip to South Africa without those players, it's a pretty daunting task, but no more daunting than the Dragons on a home derby with a lot of disgruntled players in, and an opportunity to send a message. So yeah, we understand what's directly in front of us as well as what's coming around the corner.
Yeah, we'll get to the Dragons derby in a bit. How nice is it to get Justin Tipuric back for you on the bench this week, before he goes to Wales, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, coaches, even though they complain, want difficult decisions. They want good players available for you, and Justin's obviously a very, very good player who makes a difference just by being on the training pitch. So from that point of view, him, Dan Idiot returning, the boys, Gareth Tom, sort of being back around, is a great thing for us for sure.
You mentioned there your Wales contingent. One name that you are surprised that's not been selected, Rhys Webb, is that correct?
No, absolutely. I think that over the last, the feedback that he's had, what he's been asked to do, influence on games, I think he's been one of our most consistent performers over a period of time. He was invited to a pre-World Cup year meeting that I'm sure you all know about. And I just feel for him because he, he's playing well. So yeah, we're a little bit surprised by that. But we need to rally round him and help him out because he's a very committed Ospreys man and who wants to play well for his team, and that's all he can control now.
Yeah, and this also might spur him on to play even better for the region as well. Can you give us your thoughts on Jack Morgan's recall? Because he missed out in the summer, obviously, but it's great to see him back in the squad. Yeah,
he's a number of... we talk about reflection of our group and performances and our programme. He's another one that's, along with Nicky Smith, for example, been left out and performed well enough to get back in. And that's due to the players that he plays with, the performances they put on, the programme that we run, how we train, the S&C, the medical and all of those things, and working on the direct feedback that he's been given. So I think if you look at that, it's happened before with Adam Beard, it's happened before, with George North as the recent two. So yeah, it's a good advert for what we do here, and I'm delighted for him because, again, from a performance point of view, he started the season very well.
But like you said, they're going into camp on Monday. So the Dragons on Sunday is the last game until they're back. That you can all have them together. How have you prepared for Monday then? For Sunday, sorry. Because I know the team were disappointed with the draw against the Stormers. But what can you take from that going into Sunday?
Well, we're going to need to bring the same intensity first and foremost, because we're away from home in a Welsh derby, and that's a given. There'll be players on both sides that are committed to that, because it's really, really important. And I don't think you need to look beyond that. I mean, there'll be people talking about the subplots about X, Y, and Z, and you guys will probably be referring to that, no doubt. But for us, it's a Welsh derby. 4 points on offer in a very competitive league, as you've seen, and it's important to maintain momentum wherever you can. We felt from a selection point of view, Ulster, that was difficult because of what we could and couldn't select, and to get a performance, if not a victory, all bar the last knock-ins of that sort of performance. Our challenge is to maintain the performance level and intensity level away from home in a Welsh derby, and that's really, really tough. And I know from personal experience how tough that is. The players are under no illusions of what that's around, and we're really looking forward to that because we want to keep our momentum going in our season for sure.
What have you made of the Dragons in the last few games then? There's been a lot of talk about what's going on off the field for the Dragons, but on the field, they seem to have, there's been a shift in their momentum, maybe it's fair to say. Yeah,
I mean, I focus predominantly on what we do. Obviously, we're respectful of what then we look at them and what they're trying to do. We've got a lot of people that know Di Flanagan pretty well and what he stands for, so yeah, maybe that gives us a bit of an insight. But we know that whoever's in charge, however it's been, irrespective of the shift of playing style or I don't know what specifically you're referring to, the Dragons are always a committed bunch, really committed bunch, especially at home with a home crowd. It's a really tough place to go, and we learned that from the start. We've had good results there, so that should give us some confidence, but we know how tough it is, and if we underestimate that and don't turn up with the right mindset, we're going to find it difficult.
And finally then, before you head off to South Africa, a win at Rodney Parade could lift you to the upper half of the table. That would be good before going to South Africa, wouldn't it, for momentum again?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've got Connacht as well, because obviously the very, very difficult opposition, very similar, very committed, very tough, and the key word in sport is always about momentum, and once you get it, you've got to keep it, and you've got to hold on to it for as long as possible and do everything you can to keep it. So we're not looking past Sunday. We'll see what that gives us, and then we'll dust ourselves off and get ready to go again. But as you say, it's certainly not going to get any easier for sure.
Toby, what do you think is going on then with Reece? Because he's in form, played really well against the Stormers. He's been leading you for several games this season. I mean, what do you think is going on there?
That's not really a question for me, Mark, I don't think. I mean, that's a difficult one for me to answer. All I can comment on his levels of performance and his influence in the group. Since making him captain, he's been very positive in relation to driving the competitiveness of the team, as well as delivering high-level performances himself. Whether he's, what Wales want him to do, I'm sure that they've been very specific, and if he's not doing that, I'm sure that, I hope to think that he's been told what that is. But from our point of view, he's doing exactly what we want him to do. Obviously, like every player, we were trying to get better and better as a team and as individuals, and that's part of being a professional rugby player. But from a high-level performance point of view, as I said, not just last week, but across last season in particular, he's been one of our standout performers, and for us, their losses are gain for sure. I know that doesn't help him, but we're pleased to have him around for sure.
No, I'm with Gareth. Do you think Wales will release him back to you for the Connacht game if he's ready? He's obviously, he presumably will need some game time.
No, we've got a few of those. I mean, Carl Thomas played 18 minutes plus this weekend, so we've got a few of those. I'm sure that they'll want to get ready for their campaign. So I don't expect anyone to come back, and if they do, then it's an added bonus, and we've got to prepare. If we've become a victim of our own program and player development and performances, it's a backhanded compliment. It doesn't help us in the short term for sure, and we hope it doesn't hurt us too much when the end results come around, because we're trying to muscle up and get into that playoffs and kick on from last year. But having a significant amount of your squad, nearly half of it, if you like, away and not available for consecutive games makes things very, very challenging for sure.
And going back to what Herod was saying, about Nicky Smith and Jack Morgan, what do you actually tell these guys then? Jack would have been so disappointed. We spoke with Nicky earlier in the season, and Nicky, again, evidently disappointed. What do you actually tell these guys?
I could tell you, but you can't publish it. So, no, I'm joking. No, from our point of view, it's we talk a lot, and a lot of high performance sport talk about controllables and perceptions. You need to shift perception and control the controllables and get back to work, because that's the only thing that you can invest in. So we need to be very specific, and the fact that we all play a part in that. You do. You report on their performance and what you see on the weekend. We try and make them better, try and make them motivated, help them be very specific in their individual training programs. And if the team does well, the likelihood is that the individual does well. So from that point of view, it's a pretty simple plan, but as I'm sure you can imagine, there's a lot of detail that sits behind it, a lot of soul searching and a lot of relationships and a lot of motivation. And it's almost it's not the black and white stuff, it's the grey stuff in the middle that makes a difference, because the only person that can change that is the player themselves, and we all invest into that to try and get them back as soon as we can, and we've got a good history of being successful at that.
And looking at your injury list for there, you've got Harry Morgan and Sam Moore still on it. Yeah. What's the problem with those guys, and when can we see them, and will you be looking forward to seeing them?
I'll be certainly looking forward to seeing them. We're uncertain when those guys are going to return. The nature of, like any injury, people return at different rates. We've spoken about that on here, but also it's very difficult because some people are just made that way, and unfortunately have a series of injuries. Harry Morgan in particular, has had setback after setback after setback. So it's not been one absolute thing, and unfortunately, in some aspects, your body lets you down. So we've got there with Keelan, we've got there with Gareth Anscombe, we've got there with a lot of those long-term injured boys, and got them back for good. So the challenge is to keep trusting the process, work with the internal expertise and the external expertise we have, in order to get to a situation where we get them back. And at the moment, that doesn't look like it's in the near future.
You seem to be developing a good full-back or talented young boy in Max Nagy.
Yeah, exactly. Max has gone well, and again, him and Hugh Sutton from the Swansea University sort of programme and bits and pieces have been good for us. And look, they've taken their opportunity, both of them. To be fair, you know more about Max, but Hugh played well in pre-season and in the Ulster game in adversity, which sets us up well for the long term. And when you contribute so many players to the Welsh programme, you're going to need the strength in depth, because it's very, very difficult to compete, to have challenging selections, but also to prepare well. If you think about how many people you lose, and mimicking game pressure and stuff like that, it's very, very difficult unless you've got quality players. So we've got to keep trying to get these players through wherever they come from.
Don't want to talk any more of your players into the Wales squad, because you won't have any left. But Morgan Morris again, nobody sort of mentions him, and yet he continues to play well for you. Yeah,
no, he's a very good. To be fair, with more young player, impactful moments in the game, you see a lot of them. You've talked to me in particular about it. We're really pleased with how he's going. Whether he's what other people are looking for, I can't comment, but I know that he does a lot of really good things for us. There are elements that we're working on him to make him better on both sides of the ball, which is similar to every player. So he knows he's not the finished article, and he works hard at that. And all he can do is put in impactful performances at the weekend and give himself the best chance.
Last question, really, with Dan Evans, what's the injury, and when can we expect to see him perhaps available again?
Yeah, Dan's a long one. Dan's going to be a long-term one. To be fair, he's unfortunately he's had a chronic injury that we've been probably treating on and off since I've been here, to give you some form of time frame, and so we're probably looking down the surgery option for him, and obviously that, like Will Griff, depends on how that goes and what they find when they actually open it up. We're hopeful to get him back by the end of the year, for as we are with both of them, but that's really depending on what they find, and the specialist surgery require means that we need to make sure we get the right person to do the right job. So from that point of view, there's been a bit of a delay with him because of the availability of the surgeon. So we're hopeful to get him back. It's as I said, it's a chronic injury that he's had from years of playing, and we want to try and get on top of that, and so he can, finish the season if he can.
Hi Toby, just a couple of very quick ones for me. We were talking to Jack just now. I was asking him about the breakdown. He was obviously more turnovers than anyone else last season, and just about how he's always looking to develop that. And he talked about how picking and choosing the right breakdown to go into is key, and also about the work that you do, or the coaches do with him on the training ground in terms of the body angle and getting the right position, because it can be a brutally hard thing to do and put your head where it hurts. How much time specifically do you spend on the breakdown area, and just how big is it now in the modern game? It seems to be so important.
It is so important. I think the difficult thing is if you look at us trying to look after players and mimics life situations, and obviously everyone's very mindful about levels of contact and HIAs and bits and pieces. So the more live you are, the more risk you have. So we have to find clever ways of mimicking reps without risk, if you see what I mean. So from that point of view, that can manifest itself in on-field coaching, that can manifest itself into staged coaching and stage processes, and it can manifest itself in relation to semi-live practice. So we have to keep addressing that in many different ways. But it's part of him and a number of others, especially with that skill set. So, like for a youngster, Harry Deeves is another one. Justin Tipuric will be another one. Dan Liddy will be another one. And they've got a little group where they can look at these sort of things, and they spend quite a long time with them and the forwards coach, so with Duncan and Richard Kelly and people like that, to look at the situational recognition and the decision making. So it's a pretty layered thing and a pretty long answer. I'm sorry to.
That's right.
But it is such a complex area, such a critical area. You have to be creative and innovative in not to do it. No player can now do in the modern game, with the amount of collisions and what games give you, can afford to do it live all the time. So we have to be creative around that.
And lastly, I'm guessing this is Jack Walsh's first start in a derby, thinking back on it, and it can be quite, I don't know what the word is, quite fruity down at Rodney Parade. They're right on top of you, the crowd, and they do like the odd word of encouragement to the opposition.
Yeah.
As a young man, what do they call it, the fibre or the intestinal fortitude, what's he like, and how will he deal with that kind of mini cauldron, I guess?
I think his Australian background serves him well here. He's a very confident young man, and to quote, he's a tough bugger. So from that point of view, I've got no worries about Jack from a temperament point of view, and the reason I can say that with confidence is look at the conversion that he had to take at Scarlets in a similar derby, in a similar situation. So from that point of view, I have no issues for Jack in that regard. And even Ulster away, under a lot of adversity, he keeps putting himself forward. So I don't think we're going to get a shrinking violet for sure. And part of being the quarterback is part of that. So it's a good opportunity for him, as you say, against in a Welsh derby away from home. His second one, and starting is different. We've got to make sure that we make that experience as positive as we can. So everyone plays a part in making that happen. And we need to create an opportunity where he can do what he's put in the team to do, because as you've seen, when he's been asked to do that, he's done it well.